growing up a little introverted, I think the desire was to be um, embraced and accepted in a group. I'm an absolute outsider to the film industry. I didn't know where to go to audition. I didn't know everything. I figured out on my own as a kid. Like an idea of beauty was that idea was a bit narrow-minded. But I was also very young and I was trying to find my feet in the ground. There is this slightly colonial hangover when it comes to beauty, which I personally don't find interesting because I can't relate only. There's a void. And I think now more than ever we should celebrate dusky skin. I find it challenging how I have to work past the judgment that is already placed upon me. Thank you. It's been quite a ride, honestly. As a girl who's moved from Vizag to Mumbai for college, not knowing that I would go on to be a part of the entertainment industry. I think this has been an amazing ride. Not without its share of, like hardships, but that's part of any journey. I mean, that is inevitable for growth. I don't think I look at life as a this is the milestone I want to hit. This is the goal. It's great to have certain goals in place, but I think obsessing with those goals takes away the joy of the surprise of what can happen. I've said this before. I was like, if life is only about progression and only about walking ahead, you would never dance. You are just in the same spot, but there is joy.
You had said that when I moved to the city, I was looking.
I've spent 15, 16 years of my life in Vizag. Guarded, simple, school kid, that kind of a simplistic living. And then I've had the past 15 years where I went from going to an amazing college where I was exposed to so many cultures, becoming Miss India, giving modeling a shot, going on to become an actor, have the opportunity to backpack across the country. There have been points where I felt dips, but I think those are also important. I have a slightly more, I don't know, I don't think life has purpose, and I'm very motivated by the idea that we are going to die. I mean, it may sound morbid to some, but I feel like the certainty that death will come makes me appreciate the moment even more. So when things go down, when shit hits the fan, I'm like, it'll pass. To answer that, the belonging question, I think growing up a little introverted, I think the desire was to be um, embraced and accepted in a group because I would be too shy to. It didn't come from a lack of confidence as much as just a feeling like being shy, being timid. And at every juncture, I realized that I'm trying to belong only because I'm pushing myself into new arenas, new groups, new situations. And looking back, that's a bold thing to do. I've got to respect the fact that despite being someone who was shy and timid, I put myself in situations where there was no comfort. I'm an absolute outsider to the film industry. I didn't know where to go to audition. I didn't know everything. I figured out on my own as a kid. Uh, and those risks were taken by that same introvert or by that same timid, shy girl. Full disclosure, as someone who doesn't have like a guiding force, I was like, okay, what are the parts that are realistically accessible to me?
Yeah.
If I were to get an amazing commercial film, of course I would have done it. It would have been like great. I would have thoroughly enjoyed it. So, given the choices I have and given my genuine love for performance, I'm going to pick what is most suited to that. I'm going to make sure I'm seen as someone who can deliver performance, whatever that character is. I look up to artists and craftsmen who live a full life, who have you. I don't know if you can be a good actor if that's all you do and all you know.
Yeah.
You have no other experiences in life that really enrich you as a person. How can you bring, like, how do you know the life of someone? I don't know if you're playing a character that's very far removed from your life. So I think it's important to be rich, like full of reserve of experiences. And life is too short, man. You gotta grow. And true growth is omnidirectional. All my learning only comes from social interaction and not from introspection. I feel like it's a very common thing. I don't know if it's an Indian thing or it happens everywhere.
Right.
But parents tend to compare, teachers tend to compare. We get so used to it that now with things like social media, we are like, oh, this person's doing better than me. My peers are, rocking it, they got this promotion or whatever. We can't help it. If there are situations or places that are making you feel low, pull yourself out of it. This is my personal learning. Because in those backpacking times, I would move without a phone and I was able to engage with the place or its people more intimately.
Think about validation. It's very interesting.
I recently read this thing where, as a parent also, more than saying, I'm so proud of you, if you were to say, you should be so proud of yourself that you did this, there's such a shift. You're making them independent in thought and making them realize and validate their own hard work as opposed to seeking it from an authority figure. Own it, good, bad,
Absolutely.
ugly. Because then you become like, you become real, you become grounded.
Yeah. Coming into the industry, you really didn't have any.
When I was in college and at the end of college, I took part in Miss India. It was like a fun adventure type thing,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, let me. But when I did win, I had no plan in place. And until that point, I'd been someone who was trained in classical dance, used to read a lot, had a great inclination for travel, and a very obvious creative charge. And those things culminated into me realizing that I would love to be able to express creatively. I just didn't know that it could be a professional choice. I thought fashion was so like, oh wow, it's so like awesome. And I thought, no, I want to be a model.
Yeah.
And I realized that it was somehow, I felt a little stunted in my expression. It was just not enough for me to release what I could have. But my parents were obviously, because we didn't have an idea, they were just worried that maybe I'd get lost. So they told me to give myself a timeline and give your best shot. Don't half-ass it. I gave myself 3 years. I auditioned a lot in that time. At the tail end of 3 years, when there were 2 or 3 months left, I got called in for a film audition. Until that point, I didn't know anything about films. And I did the audition, and halfway through the audition, I realized I loved it. I felt so free that I was like, I should have just focused on this. I wish I had had clarity.
Yeah.
But then I ended up getting that part. That became my first film, Raman Raghav
Yes.
2.0.
When you said that you auditioned for the first time for a film and you had no idea who the director was and you got it, what was the first thing that came to your mind after you said, hey, listen, you're doing this?
I couldn't believe that something went right.
Yeah.
Because I auditioned so much. And like in the beginning, I would never get a call back. After a point, you become part of a shortlist. कि ठीक है आप shortlist में हैं, आप ad के लिए यहाँ पे location होगा, ये 2 दिन free रखिए. And I would be dropped. Because for whatever reason. And that's okay.
Yeah.
May the best one win. I was prepared until the end of the film to be dropped. And it's like today I auditioned, tomorrow night we start shooting. It was so little time. I auditioned in Mukesh Thabda's office, and my look test right after the audition, Anurag sir had come to the casting office, and he told us, I was too scared and intimidated and shocked. And I tend to just withdraw, which makes me look like I have, I don't know, maybe an attitude. But on the inside, I'm just freaking out. From Phantom Office to my house, I was crying my eyes out. Like no phone, no music, nothing. Just walking on the road, just dazed. It really meant way too much, that opportunity. Because literally another 2 months and I would have not perhaps been in Mumbai anymore.
What's the one thing you found really challenging to adjust in the industry when you came here and saw this big, overwhelming world of Indian film industry?
I think my one-on-one, I can talk endlessly if there is a subject, but generally to just, I don't know, make conversation out of thin air, I didn't know how to, and I didn't know how to, like how do I find out what work is happening? because I don't know क्या system होता है, कैसे पता चलता है. And by the time, say I would Google about a project, that would only be out by the time the casting is finished.
Yeah.
So I think that was a challenge.
You've mentioned quite a few times in the course of this conversation that you are an introvert, extrovert. I think that's what you are, introvert, extrovert.
Yeah, like an outspoken introvert.
Yeah, right. When today in the industry, do you find it sometimes challenging to make friends?
I find it challenging how I have to work past the judgment that is already placed upon me. And not unfair judgment, because people judge who or how you are by the choice of roles, your performance in the roles, how you conduct yourself as an individual in, I don't know, I guess in promotions or interviews. This is what they get. But they don't get the fear. They don't get the scared. They don't get the vulnerable. They don't get the nervous. People don't see those, and those are the things that humanize us. Like, I'm very emotional, but I also tend to keep to myself. So I think I had to work on that very strongly to allow people in and make myself emotionally available, because you meet people for very short amounts of time. But whenever I shot for something, a film, show, whatever, I found that I was able to make really meaningful connections. But generally, like that, I can't, like, I don't know how to mingle. I'm just introverted, that's all.
Yeah.
But I don't look it. Working past that has been a bit of a challenge.
There's always this beauty standard that our industry has set.
Correct.
It might be a little different today, but it's not gone.
Yeah.
What was your experience like today, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think when I was doing those auditions for ads,
Yeah.
I felt like there was a certain, like an idea of beauty that idea was a bit narrow-minded. But I was also very young, and I was trying to find my feet in the ground. So I wasn't thinking whether they are right or wrong. I was thinking, how can I mold myself so as to find work? But now I think I'm very fortunate that like a Tara looks like me only, I feel. And when a filmmaker like a Zoya takes a chance and casts someone who's not the typical conventional idea of, I don't know what is conventional actually, what, light eyes maybe, which is not, I don't even know how many Indians have actually light eyes, but I'm not saying that is the standard.
Yeah.
But there is this slightly colonial hangover when it comes to beauty, which I personally don't find interesting, because I can't relate only. As an audience, as a child, whatever I'd watched, I couldn't relate to that as much as I would relate to some of the other women. And it so happens that a lot of my heroes have looked separate from that mold. Like a Vaijayanti Malaji, I don't know what category you would put her in. Rekha ji, amazing.
Yeah.
Zeenat Aman, Parveen Babi, Smita Patil,
Also different and so unique.
Vidya
in their own
Balan,
way.
Tabu.
Yes.
All these women, they're all glamorous, sexy, good-looking,
Yeah.
charming, had personality.
Absolutely.
Priyanka Chopra, like amazing women. So these were my inspiration, and I didn't see how their looks came in the way of their success. Now I'm like, I'm gonna be me, because there's a lot of girls who are like this, and a younger version of me. Like I remember when I watched Om Shanti Om, I loved looking at the actress. I was like, wow, she looks like someone she's beautiful, but it was still like a South Indian-ness to it, which
Yeah.
I felt comforted by. I'd rather focus on being that. There's a void. And I think now more than ever, we should celebrate dusky skin. I think it's sexy. You got to take who you are, be proud of it, and be truthful with it.
I totally agree with what you're saying, but do you think today, because we all eventually evolve as we're growing, we're getting older, we evolve. Like today, we can sit here and say, I'm owning it. Like you said, and rightly so, right? But at that point, was it a deterrent to kind of move on?
It basically forced me to think, first of all, largely how we are born is not our doing.
Absolutely.
And like they say, beauty is a matter of proportion. One thing more, one thing less, and this is beautiful, this is not beautiful. It made me focus on having personality, to be filled with substance, and to make choices that had like a meaningful, like a relevance. So I was like, okay, if this is not working for me, I'm going to focus on this, because surely I can't be useless.
No one is.
And I think I was able to empathize with myself.
If I had to ask you a project that truly changed the game for you as an actor, which one would that be?
I think that would be made in heaven, because I think people, uh, a larger janta discovered me through it, and it kind of became my, like, part of my social identity, like in
Yeah.
the media sphere. Thank you for being
Really.
such a wonderful listener. It means a lot. I only have the space to speak about things that mean something to me if I know that the question is coming from an honest place. So, thank you so much. Thank you.